We think it's prudent. There's a lot of external factors, as you know, Phil, but our future's really in our hands. We have this cost opportunity at the company that we've talked to you about, and that's really where our focus is.
Thousands of Americans are getting brand new Ford trucks and SUVs for nothing. No payment, no loan, no lease. But buried beneath those 32 pages of fine print is something bigger than a good deal. Ford isn't just cleaning out inventory. They're laying the foundation for a total transformation of the auto industry. And you're the product. How did Ford go from building American jobs to giving away trucks just to buy time? Why is a major automaker acting like a collapsing startup? Why are Ford dealers threatening to sue their own manufacturer? By the end of this video, you'll understand why Ford isn't giving away cars. It's trading you something far more valuable: the bleeding balance sheet. The losses aren't projections. They're withdrawals, draining cash, confidence, and credibility. Every unsold Ford vehicle costs the company $29 per day in financing interest alone. Multiply that by 112,000 excess units scattered across dealer lots nationwide, and the company bleeds over $3 million daily. That is without factoring in depreciation, insurance, and storage costs. Ford's inventory now far exceeds its demand by 37% for 3 consecutive quarters, turning every day of production into a deeper step into financial crisis. During last month's earnings call, Chief Financial Officer John Lawler offered measured language, avoiding any admission of distress. But those within the dealer network see the truth firsthand. A Texas dealer, speaking off record, summed it up plainly. This isn't about moving units anymore. It's about staying alive. His dealership group, built over 3 generations, had invested heavily in expansion. Millions in infrastructure, customer service programs, and local community partnerships. Now he watches as Ford bypasses him entirely, handing vehicles directly to consumers and sidelining the network that carried the company through booms and busts. Overhead drone footage from Michigan shows dealership lots overflowing, trucks parked in service bays, employee lots, and even adjacent roadways. These are not affordable fleet models. These are high-margin trims once expected to anchor Ford's profits. Now they idle, consuming resources instead of creating revenue. Wall Street has taken notice. Moody's placed Ford on a negative outlook, citing sustained inventory pressure and weakened pricing power. The company's stock has already dropped by 23% this year. Meanwhile, the broader market trends upward. The numbers are bad, but the real damage comes when the trust between automaker and dealer begins to fracture. The qualification maze. The public didn't hear about it through television ads or billboards. It came as a whisper, in the form of an invitation few believed was real. Ford's so-called vehicle acquisition initiative appears generous on the surface, but behind the offer is an intricate set of qualifications aimed not just at marketing reach, but at demographic conquest. The program zeroes in on 3 profiles: young first-time buyers under 35, families that currently own non-Ford vehicles, and households living in markets where Ford's brand strength has waned. Credit score thresholds sit at 680, just enough to ensure responsible lending profiles, while still attracting broad interest. Households must earn more than $75,000 annually, a requirement likely aimed at filtering for tax-paying capacity, insurance coverage, and long-term retention. Only 18 metropolitan markets are eligible: Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Charlotte, Chicago, Dallas-Fort Worth, Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, Minneapolis, Nashville, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, Tampa, and Washington District of Columbia. What do they have in common? Stiff competition from foreign automakers and slumping Ford market share. The vehicles offered aren't bargain bin leftovers. They are mid to high trims of the F-150, Bronco, Explorer, and Mustang Mach-E models priced between $48,000 and $72,000. These are not desperate clearouts. They are flagship products. Dealers aren't happy. Robert Martinez, who owns 3 Ford dealerships in Texas, voiced what many feel: we built their retail empire. Now they're undercutting us. Each direct delivery wipes out over $3,000 in profit. along with nearly $2,000 in lost service, warranty, and financing revenue. Worse, it disrupts sales floors. Walk-in customers hear rumors and demand the same offer. Showroom staff now spend their days explaining why some buyers get free vehicles, while others do not. Consumer advocates suggest this is not generosity, but marketing through ownership. These recipients are becoming unpaid brand evangelists, drivers, influencers, and content creators. And the cost of Ford is less than losing the entire generation to foreign competition. Still, even this isn't enough to solve the crisis. Look, we dug through hundreds of dealer reports and internal memos to connect what's really happening behind the scenes. Now you know exactly how Ford's free vehicle program ties into a broader strategy that affects your wallet. If this saved you hours of research, hit subscribe and let us keep doing the digging for you. The carrying cost crisis. Ford has too many vehicles, too few buyers, and time is not on their side. Each unsold car or truck racks up about $870 in monthly costs, interest, insurance, depreciation, storage. After half a year, those expenses balloon to over $7,000 per unit, often wiping out any margin the vehicle once had. At Varsity Ford in Ann Arbor, the once-packed storage yard now sits virtually empty. Normally, they hold 1,300 to 1,500 vehicles. Today, only 30 remain on site. Orders have shifted entirely to custom-built units, destroying the walk-in, test drive economy that dealerships depend on. The change cuts deeper than business strategy. In places like Louisville, Kentucky, Ford plants employ over 12,000 people. Local governments are preparing for disaster. Internal forecasts leaked from Ford suggest up to 70% workforce reductions at key plants within 24 months. That means more than just layoffs. It means collapsing local economies. The United Auto Workers Union has seen the memos. President Shawn Fain did not mince words. This is the clearance sale before the plant closures. Strike votes are already circulating at affected facilities. Ford's internal benchmarks are terrifying. They must eliminate 78,000 vehicles from their balance sheet before the end of the third quarter, or risk breaching financial covenants with lenders. The vehicle acquisition initiative has cleared just 23,000 units so far, so why keep going? Because every truck that moves, even for free, accomplishes more than letting it rot. It trims the balance sheet. It avoids triggering across-the-board markdowns. It lets Ford count units as placed in service, improving its production efficiency ratios. And crucially, it brings new blood into the Ford ecosystem. Analysts remain split. Some see a creative pivot. Others see collapse. As consultant Thomas Reynolds framed it, this might be the smartest way to save a brand, or the cleanest way to bury it. Behind Ford's closed doors, one truth remains. The business model that built the company can no longer carry it. The dealer revolution. What looked like an industry experiment now feels like an existential threat. In Chicago, 14 Ford dealerships submitted a unified letter to headquarters that reads less like a complaint and more like a legal warning. While the wording remains professional, the implication is unmistakable. Ford's free vehicle giveaway violates the long-established franchise agreements that have governed automotive retail for generations. These dealers collectively represent more than $200 million in physical infrastructure, workforce investment, and regional brand presence. The traditional relationship between manufacturer and dealer was built on mutual benefit. Ford supplies the product, and the dealers create localized trust, service, and customer experience. Now, many dealers say that balance has been broken. Each vehicle Ford gives away strips approximately $3,200 in potential profit from the dealership. That margin normally comes from sales negotiation, trade-in value, and financing coordination. The damage extends deeper. Every free vehicle removes nearly $1,800 in finance and insurance revenue that often makes the difference between breaking even and staying in the black. These are extended warranties, gap insurance, and service packages, all eliminated when Ford deals directly with the consumer. Statewide backlash began escalating in California. The California State Dealer Association lodged formal regulatory complaints, alleging that Ford's direct-to-consumer actions not only break franchise agreements but also violate statutes meant to prevent manufacturers from undermining their own dealer networks. In Texas, Robert Martinez, who owns 3 Ford dealerships, put it bluntly, "This isn't a limited promotion. This is Ford seeing what happens when they cut us out." Some dealers are already taking matters into their own hands. Several Florida retailers have launched informal matching offers for customers denied entry into Ford's official giveaway list. They then submit warranty claims and incentive reimbursements to Ford, camouflaging their strategy as legitimate service. In Ohio, one dealer has flatly refused to comply. "I sell cars. I don't give them away." The boldest response may come from the 37 dealers currently preparing to surrender their franchises altogether. These aren't small operations in fading towns. These are profitable, growing businesses whose owners now believe that Ford's future vision no longer includes them. What followed next sent shockwaves from showrooms to stock tickers. The Wall Street warning: Wall Street isn't reacting to a normal business pivot. It is reacting to a corporate identity crisis. Moody's recent report on Ford avoided theatrical language, but issued a financial indictment. Phrases like deteriorating pricing power and persistent inventory imbalances appeared repeatedly. Translated plainly, the agency believes Ford can no longer sell its vehicles at profitable prices, and that this structural weakness could worsen before it improves. The numbers behind the concern are staggering. Ford reported a $3.8 billion operating loss from its North American division in just the first 3 months of the year, not annually, quarterly. A hemorrhage of that scale would force bankruptcy in smaller firms. For Ford, it suggests deep systemic misalignment between production and demand. Meanwhile, retail market share fell by 18.7% year over year. That decline weakens Ford's bargaining position with suppliers, financiers, and even its own dealers. A shrinking customer base puts pressure on every part of the supply chain. And on the trading floor, Ford's stock has fallen 23%, underperforming nearly every industry peer as the rest of the market trends upward. Auto consultant Brian Miller captured the industry's view. This is either the smartest customer acquisition campaign ever attempted, or a panic move disguised as innovation. His warning reflects the sharp divide between those who see bold strategy and those who see final desperation. Ford executives remain outwardly confident but privately acknowledge the risks. One senior vice president, speaking off record to investors, explained, "We're not simply launching a new campaign. We're redefining Ford's identity, and there will be pain before there is payoff." The decision to give away high-value vehicles breaks precedent. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, General Motors and Chrysler avoided offering cars with zero payment. Ford has crossed a line no other manufacturer dared to approach. And now every other automaker is scrambling to figure out what to do next. The competitive shockwave. The fallout is not limited to Ford's own brand. It is distorting the entire auto ecosystem. At General Motors dealerships nationwide, customers are arriving with Ford emails printed out, demanding equivalent treatment. Dealership staff are put in impossible positions: refuse and lose the sale, or match and lose money. One Chevrolet dealer in Atlanta posted a banner reading, "We don't give away trucks, we build value." It was part defense, part protest. Toyota and Honda issued internal memos forbidding their dealerships from responding competitively to Ford's move. Their concern? That matching giveaways would create a domino effect, leading to broader financial instability. Hold the line has become their motto, but holding the line is harder when customers are asking, why not? Used car prices are also in free fall. A late model F-150 that sold for $38,500 in January is now trading for just over $31,000, a 19% drop in resale value in under 4 months. It is not just Ford's used vehicles that are affected. The entire used market is losing reliability in its pricing mechanisms. Publicly traded used car platforms like Carvana and CarMax are also taking hits. Their stock prices have dropped between 14% and 22% since the start of the program, as investors lose faith in resale models that depend on predictability. Fleet markets, long a stronghold of predictable margin, are also now under threat. Ford has begun offering commercial leases at $99 per month, zero down, for select work trucks. This deal undercuts competitors by thousands of dollars per vehicle, making it nearly impossible for rivals to compete without taking massive losses. International automakers have started issuing confidential reports warning executives that Ford's actions could shift global expectations. If the United States market accepts the idea of free vehicles, then automakers everywhere could be forced into equally extreme measures just to keep pace. As one European analyst said during a closed-door meeting, this is not an American pricing issue anymore. It's a global brand integrity crisis in motion. The aftershocks are spreading fast, and they are nowhere near finished. The 32-page contract. The free vehicle was just the bait. The contract is the trap. The document arrives via encrypted email. A 32-page legal agreement filled with dense clauses and technical language. Most recipients, stunned by the prospect of receiving a vehicle worth more than $50,000, skip the fine print and rush to sign. That is where the control begins. Paragraph 17.3, buried on page 23, grants Ford access to user data far beyond typical telematics. Michael Chen realized the extent only after linking his smartphone to his new Mustang Mach-E. Calendar entries, text messages, and contact lists began syncing with Ford's servers in real time. Ford's terms authorize the collection of voice recordings from within the vehicle, biometric data from wearables, and real-time location tracking with pattern recognition. This is not traditional automotive data. It is an entire behavioral profile. Worse, the agreement binds participants to a marketing contract. 2 weekly social media posts with brand-approved language and hashtags, mandatory event appearances, and an outright ban on public criticism. Sarah Williams learned the financial cost when her accountant revealed a $7,800 tax bill. The Internal Revenue Service considers the gift compensation. The vehicle pushed her into a higher bracket, raising her entire tax burden. That's when the surveillance shifted into something deeper, the data harvesting operation. Ford's generosity came with conditions, and a surveillance footprint unlike anything the industry has seen. The vehicle acquisition initiative isn't just a marketing stunt. It is a full-scale data operation. The contract permits Ford to harvest audio from cabin microphones, not only for system commands but general conversation. Privacy clauses claim it's for experience optimization, a phrase vague enough to justify indefinite data storage and analysis. Every location you drive to is tracked, but it does not stop there. The system also monitors how long you stay, how often you return, and who you contact during those trips. Integration with smartphones and wearables expands that reach. Biometric data, heart rate, stress levels, sleep cycles, gets uploaded through connected health apps. Michael Chen's attempts to adjust privacy settings failed. Disabling tracking violates the program's terms and triggers repossession proceedings. The marketing contract demands more than promotion. Participants must post photos of the vehicle in public settings, tag Ford, and interact positively with the brand. Missed posts can lead to contract termination and shutdown of vehicle functions. Meanwhile, Ford's third-party data sharing clauses remain open-ended. Insurance firms, advertisers, and data brokers may all gain access. Participants are no longer customers. They are unpaid test subjects, monitored and managed through a platform built to extract behavioral insight. Then came the tax reckoning, the tax time bombshell. The financial surprise wasn't in the contract. It arrived at tax time. Sarah Williams' free Ford F-150 came with a hidden price, a tax liability of nearly $8,000 assessed by the Internal Revenue Service. The government classified the vehicle as compensation, not a gift. It raised her total income, pushed her into a higher tax bracket, and altered her eligibility for certain deductions. For participants in states with income taxes, total liabilities easily exceed $10,000, an unexpected burden for households already on tight budgets. Many assumed Ford would handle the tax paperwork or that the vehicle fell under a promotional exemption. Instead, participants received Form 1099 MISC, listing the full manufacturer's suggested retail price as income. That income must be reported immediately, even though the vehicle cannot be sold, traded, or transferred for 36 months under contract terms. Tax advisors across the country report an influx of confused, frustrated clients who signed on without understanding the fiscal impact. Participants cannot liquidate the vehicle to cover the taxes they owe. Some consider voluntarily returning the vehicle, only to learn that surrendering it does not absolve their tax liability. Ford, meanwhile, avoids payroll tax obligations by structuring the program outside traditional employment. The participants carry the full burden, without pay, without protection, and without a way out. Then came the final clause no one expected, the repossession threat. Ford gave the car, but it never gave up control. Page 27 of the agreement changes everything. Ford retains full remote access to every program vehicle and reserves the right to disable them at any time for non-compliance. That means no need for a tow truck or court order. Miss a survey? Skip a promotional post or make a negative comment online, and the vehicle shuts down where it sits, engine locked, doors sealed, alarm active. Participants don't own these vehicles in any meaningful sense. They are custodians under constant review. After 3 compliance failures, whether social media silence or perceived negativity, Ford can initiate repossession. There is no legal protection from seizure. Since participants never bought the vehicle, traditional ownership rights don't apply. Repossession doesn't end the participant's obligation. Even if the car disappears, the tax bill remains, and so do the marketing requirements. For 36 months, recipients are bound to promote Ford, whether they still possess the vehicle or not. Legal experts warn this approach may become a dangerous precedent. It normalizes the idea of consumer property controlled remotely by corporations, tied to behavioral contracts rather than purchases. If Ford's model spreads, it could redefine what ownership even means, turning products into platforms of corporate oversight disguised as perks. The transformation was already underway, Project Edison unveiled. The transformation wasn't innovation, it was elimination. Within Ford's headquarters, an internal plan called Project Edison outlines the largest shift in manufacturing strategy in the company's 120-year history. Leaked documents reveal plans to eliminate 24,000 United States factory jobs while adding only 9,000 new roles, most of which require different skills in different regions. This isn't streamlining, it's restructuring on a scale designed to permanently reduce labor reliance. 3 major United States plants are scheduled to close by the 4th quarter, replaced by electric vehicle production sites requiring 60% fewer workers due to simplified assembly processes. Louisville faces the harshest blow. With over 12,600 Ford employees, the city's economy has long depended on the stability of internal combustion vehicle production. Now, 70% of those jobs will disappear within 24 months. While Ford's $11.8 billion investment in new electric vehicle infrastructure appears ambitious, most of that capital funds automation, not employment. 7 entire vehicle lines will be discontinued, erasing jobs in engineering, design, and manufacturing. Many of the vehicles being given away today, the Bronco, Explorer, and F-150, may not return in future American-built iterations. Internationally, Ford is already laying groundwork. 3 Mexican plants have been acquired, and a new flagship facility near Mexico City will become the company's largest production center by 2027. The next facility to fall was the most symbolic of all, the Dearborn farewell. The heartland was not evolving, it was evaporating. The Dearborn truck plant has long represented the soul of American automotive manufacturing. Built on Henry Ford's original principles of industrial efficiency and middle-class job creation, its closure marks more than a financial adjustment. It signals the cultural end of the Ford era. Operations will cease entirely by the second quarter of 2026 as electric vehicle conversion takes hold. Electric vehicle production demands fewer hands and more machines. Modern assembly lines now rely on software engineers instead of wrench turners, with processes designed to require 60% fewer employees than traditional truck manufacturing. The factory that once employed thousands now becomes a hollow shell of its former self. Workers are offered retraining for jobs that might not materialize, relocation to distant plants, or retirement packages that don't cover the financial cost of an abruptly ended career. Years of technical knowledge, team loyalty, and community identity are swept aside in favor of capital-efficient machinery. Ford's shift toward its New Mexico facility solidifies this transformation. Workers there will earn significantly less while producing more, giving Ford a pricing advantage while leaving American towns like Dearborn and Louisville reeling. Local suppliers throughout Michigan now face cascading cancellations as contracts dissolve and long-standing relationships disappear. That collapse triggered a different kind of urgency among consumers: the Consumer Action Plan. The deadline wasn't public, but it was absolute. Ford's vehicle acquisition initiative is ending. The company expects to reach its cap of 23,000 placed vehicles by August. With limited time and deliberately quiet marketing, only a select few will qualify. This was never a traditional campaign. It was a controlled experiment. Applicants must meet narrow criteria: ages between 25 and 38, household incomes from $75,000 to $125,000, and credit scores above 680. No current Ford vehicles can be in the home. Participants also need active accounts on at least 2 major social media platforms. Participation depends heavily on geography. Only residents of 18 metropolitan regions, including Atlanta, Houston, Seattle, and Washington District of Columbia, are eligible. Those living outside these zones are automatically disqualified. Vehicle selection matters too. The F-150 Lariat has fewer program restrictions. The Bronco Outer Banks carries lighter surveillance terms. The Explorer ST features the lowest average tax burden. The Mustang Mach-E and F-150 Lightning, while high in value, impose the most invasive data collection and steepest tax implications. To prepare, prospective participants should consult a tax advisor, thoroughly review privacy terms, and capture all documentation for legal protection. Missed obligations can trigger penalties, even after the vehicle is gone. What followed would ripple across every showroom in America. The market disruption legacy. The disruption was no longer temporary. It became the new normal. Ford's decision to give away vehicles worth $50,000 or more created a seismic shock across the automotive sector. What began as a crisis response evolved into a market precedent. Manufacturers are now confronted with a reality where consumers have seen high-end products distributed without payment, and they will never forget it. Used vehicle prices plummeted. A late-model F-150 that fetched $38,500 earlier this year now brings barely $31,000. Auction houses, lenders, and insurers must now rework decades-old pricing models that depended on predictable depreciation. The free distribution of new vehicles erased that foundation. Dealers across all brands report rising frustration. Customers demand comparable incentives, while sales teams are forced into awkward explanations that highlight why their offers fall short. The psychological shift is permanent. Once buyers know free is possible, full price feels unjustifiable. Ford didn't just bend industry norms, they shattered them. Ownership now comes with strings. Pricing means nothing, and your car may be watching you. Other automakers are already testing similar models, and the shift toward surveillance-based marketing is accelerating. So here's the real question. Would you accept a free vehicle if it meant giving up your privacy, control, and resale rights? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.